Come on, come on, come on, come on. And we're over the internet as well as Facebook live streaming. I'll be sharing that. And here we go, come on. Okay,
Phone on silent.
You're live. Phone's on silent and you're live.
Good afternoon, Atlanta. You're listening to the new WCEG Network. We are on WCEGTalkRadio.com. Click on live screen tab or watch us live on your smart TV. You can watch us on YouTube at WCEG Network. My name is Herman Anderson, and my co-host is
Anthony C. Aiken. How y'all doing out there?
And we are your worldwide community empowerment group where we speak life in the community. You can like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and you can follow us on Instagram at WCEG_talk_radio. And the call-in number is 1-646-876-9932. And my Twitter account is VETS2DAY_Herman. And we have a guest that will be calling in. That guest is Representative Debra Bazemore of District 62, State Representative. As she called in, we will get an update on this past session down at the State House. But in the meantime, we're going to get started, and we'll start with some of the issues, some of the COVID-19 issues that we are hearing about and trying to refer people to get help to.
I tell you what, this coronavirus concern, not only here in Atlanta, but it's a worldwide pandemic. And when you think about it, just think about January of 2020, everything was hunky-dory. Things were just moving smoothly, basketball teams were playing, and you can go to theaters and restaurants and movies, and you can go to the park, and all of a sudden around March, late February, early March, we start seeing some major changes that are still prevalent today. The thing that is so just harming to me is when we hear our leadership talk about they don't think there's an issue. If you recall, number 45, that's the guy we call our president, indicated that this thing would go away. By June, everything should be cool. Now we're in July, and this thing is getting worse. Veterans are also being affected just like everyone else. They're showing signs of fever and cough and shortness of breath, chills, muscle pain, headache, severe, sore throat, loss of taste, all these kinds of things. But the VA is providing testing to veterans. They can go there, and the VA is following the CDC guidelines, those type things. So you need to be able to make sure that you understand, and like we say in the military, Herman, the rules of engagement. Rules of engagement is 1, wash your hands. Number 2, wear a mask. And 3, practice social distancing. They're talking about 6 feet, but believe it or not, a sneeze can travel 20 feet.
That is
a cough can go 15 feet. So as a guy that told me yesterday or 2 days ago when I was getting my testing, he said, the public is in trouble because of the incorrect information being put out in regards to social distancing. You should be more than 6 feet away. But as you see, so many folks were like having cabin fever or thinking everything was okay and started going out to malls and supermarkets and movie theaters and parties and restaurants. They're saying now September and October, we're going to see a major surge in more illnesses and deaths.
Well, that is true. And also it's kind of like a setback because you're seeing a lot of, for an example, colleges in their sports program, the original plan was to start them up in, say, September. Now some are putting them off, and some colleges are just canceling for the entire season. So,
And I think that's great. I really think that's great that they're stopping these athletic programs, these outings, because we know kids. We were like that 70 plus years ago. We know kids, they'll get together and they want to party. They want to go to the games. They want to date. They want to hang out. And even though they may have been tested, say, on Monday, they could be exposed to somebody on Tuesday. You just don't know. So you really need to practice caution and stay your blankety blank home. That's all I can tell you.
Well, that's true. And regarding to the veterans in their situation, I have 2 items that I just received yesterday, and one deal with benefit debts, and the other one deal with healthcare debts. And it's VA offered debt relief to veterans through the end of the year. Veterans should contact the VA Debt Management Center at 1-800-827-0648 regarding benefit debts. And regarding healthcare debts, the number to call is 1-866-400-1238. So those are 2 situations that can provide some relief if you're dealing with debt that's due.
Well, I understand that. I know there are a couple of times during my career and after my career dealing with the VA that there were debts due, and you got to pay them. You know what I mean? Uncle Sam will come after you. You cannot run away from 2 individuals, Uncle Sam and the IRS.
That is,
you know, those 2, they are relentless. So if you just do the right things, folks, veterans, just do the right things. And if you need some help, call the IRS, call the VA, and let them know what your situations are and request support. And you'll get it. I guarantee you'll get it.
well, let's talk about the participation in the upcoming elections.
Whoa.
We want to encourage people to participate in a couple items. I have this, just let me read them. The Department of Registration and Election, as last day to register is August the 7th at 5 p.m. So that's if you want to register to participate in the upcoming election. Also, absentee ballot must be received by the 20th in Fulton County. Absentee ballot drop boxes departed at different offices throughout the county. So that's regarding to the August 11 runoff election. And in November, we have the general election, which is the big one.
That's the biggie. You know what, folks? Please vote. It's really an atrocity. And here in Atlanta and all other big municipalities, we have less than 1/10 of the folks in some areas voting. They don't even take the time to vote. So if the last 3.5 years, almost 4 years, hasn't opened your eyes, then you got a problem. The problem is you're going to continue to have what you have now. Mediocrity, don't care, outright racist activities, and the majority feeling as though they're protected. And it's like we're going back 150 years where crimes were being committed against people of color but those committing the crime were protected by law. We cannot allow individuals with a different, corrupt, racist agenda to be able to hide behind the law. Please vote. Vote your conscience and vote for what you feel is right, because you're dealing with generations now. Generations of individuals in a system that is separate and not equal. Not following the Constitution of these United States. Not at all. So you have a duty and you have a right to vote.
Well, that's true. And this came from the VFW, and it's just a statement about like that to reinforce how important it is to vote, and also how important it is for veterans to vote. And this was in June. Today, there are 2.1 million U.S. service members and 20 million veterans, including spouses, surviving parents, and voting age children. This powerful voting bloc exceeds 100 million.
Whoa.
So this is a 100 million voting bloc that can be, can really have a lot to say about the election.
Make a difference. Can make a difference.
So that's just some facts.
I mean, those are facts. Those are very strong facts, Herman. I'm glad you brought it up to our listeners, because that voting bloc can make change, implement change. Don't let the weather, apathy, or just nonchalant attitudes affect your opportunity to go and cast your one vote, because that one vote means a lot. That means that you're taking part of the process to make a decision on who will be representing you in your particular jurisdiction. But also in our case, in November, as Herman said, the biggie, who will be actually leading this nation. We saw what the current party has done in the last 4 months. Nothing. I mean, the direction has been very limited. And how can you have a national political body trying to put the halt on the National Medical Authority, which is CDC, to put out the right guidelines to protect the population?
Yes.
To me, that's just mind-boggling. But people have to stand up. What happened to the people that stand up and say, this is not right? Why? Well, vindictiveness. What about the Lieutenant Colonel, Herman? The Russian expert, Lieutenant Colonel. What happened this week, Herman?
That's unbelievable. I mean, that people are being intimidated like that, and we're dealing with corruption at such a high level.
Forced to retire. Forced to retire because he stood up. So his career is done. Not only his career, but his brother's career. Forced to retire. Also, show you the corruption. You have a 3-star general who admitted, Herman, check this out, who admitted to be involved with the Russians, et cetera, was found guilty, was waiting for sentencing, and the Department of Justice drops the case. Drop the case. Now let's put Anthony Aiken and Herman Anderson in that same scenario, and we're just dealing on a small scale. You'll be Herman Anderson, prisoner 35943, and I'll be prisoner 32456, because they
Okay.
will lock us up. We do not have the support behind us whereby the president of these United States has the ultimate veto power, the ultimate pardon power for those individuals who have committed the crime, but yet he pardons them as though nothing ever happened. That's an atrocity. It's an atrocity. It's very disappointing.
So also along those same lines, we haven't discussed it, but the gentleman that become the first to become the chairman of one of the branches had a lot to say on his 5-minute video.
Correct.
What about the situation, how you have to know what the stressful things are that you deal with going through that?
Well, at least he stood up, he talked. I don't know, you remember the new Air Force general, that's what you're referring to, who's coming into office, I think he just came in the office on 1 July. And as the first Black Joint Chief of Staff person for the Air Force, and how he talked about the issues that he dealt with as a person coming into the military, and the issues that he will deal with as he assumes the position for the next 4 years. It takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of self-fortitude to step out there. That young lieutenant colonel stepped out there to tell the truth. And what happened to him? The vindictiveness of the White House, where they forced him to retire, whereby he knew he did not have a future in the military. And the man's an expert on Russian relationships, but it didn't care. The White House did not care. They threw him under the bus, rolled over him. He's gone. He's done. And that's, to me, that's totally, totally wrong. The number of people that are being relieved from command. What about the Navy captain?
Yeah.
Who's relieved from command, received so much national notoriety to it. Soldiers were crazy about him. They started thinking about it, said, well, maybe we consider, him being relieved. A month later, under political pressure, and we know where it came from, he can't go back to being a commander. His career is shot. He's done. He'll never get promoted again. And he might as well start thinking of a second career. And that's the risk you take, being in command.
That is the risk you take being in command. And it points to what, after you have put in 30 years or 30 plus years in the structure that we in, where the president changes every 4 years or every 8 years at the most, in a change in who's commander in chief can completely just throw you out of whack.
Throw you out of whack. I mean, in the military, Herman, we can't support either party. We work at the pleasure of the president, the Joint Chief of Staff, whatever. So we don't have a political affiliation. But what we do have is a brain. We can think. We know the difference between right and wrong. For me, that was clearly, put on demonstration when our number 45 wanted to show his power, and he calls up the National Guard and the forces for him to go take a walk from the White House down to a church, but en route, military personnel and security personnel are roughing up the people. For him to go and take a photo up with a Bible that's upside down. A photo up. And he doesn't even go to church.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot coming out about this commander-in-chief, and it's and it leads to the in my opinion, the people that vote, their political psyche or their morals or their character or culture, whatever you wanna, what name you want to put on it, is question I have: why would people vote for someone like this?
Well, there's certain people, and that's the far right. If you go back 3.5 years, he was sending a subtle message that really didn't come out until he stole the election, because he didn't think he was going to win. But make America great again. When you start to think about it now, let's think about the incidences that have occurred where he was trying to make the paradigm shift to go back 150 years. We're talking about the 4 soldiers killed in Niger, Africa, the young Black soldier, where he really did not even speak to the spouse of that soldier, and then made a real crazy statement was, well, he knew what he was signing up for. So his life was insignificant. Number 2, the really crazy incident in Charlottesville, Virginia, where this foolish person drives a car at high speed into a crowd, killing a person and injuring others, and backing out. And he says, oh, there are good people on both sides. Excuse me? Someone was just killed, but there are good people on both sides. You know, dealing with international relationships, how he's being ostracized by world leaders that view him as someone that is truly not in touch. Absolutely not in touch. And for his press secretaries and all the others, some of the blatant, straight out comments that they're making in regards to our current scenario, race, shows the insensitivity not only of this individual, but the insensitivity of his administration. He does not care. The bottom line, he is out for re-election. And that base, Make America Great Again, is that same base that went all the way back 150 years to say, let's reinvent or bring back some of the foolishness that people of color had to deal with those 150 years ago. It's absolutely ridiculous. That's why it's so important for individuals to vote to make a difference. To vote. That's what you have to do.
You're exactly right. And as part of your earlier comments about participating, I mean, being signed, registered to vote, and being of age to vote, then for some reason on voting day, we're encouraging as many people as would like to vote using the absentee ballot system. There are plenty of opportunities to participate.
Well, I tell you what, if you don't participate, you're in trouble. Oh, seems as though we got this young lady online now. That's our guest. How are you doing, ma'am?
Well, how are you?
Oh, good. I'm Anthony Aiken, and I guess you know the gentleman in the white shirt, he looks all clean, Dave, Herman Anderson.
Yes, I think I do know him. You know, please forgive me, technical difficulties that continue, but we're
Not
gonna
a
move
problem.
forward.
Well, we're gonna keep moving. Let me read your bio, then we'll let you go. Our guest today is Representative Debra Bazemore of District 63. State Representative Debra Bazemore was elected to serve as citizen of House District 63 in 2016. The district is comprised of residents of Clayton, Fayette, Fulton, and Fulton County. She is currently on the Human Relations, Agent Intergovernmental Coordination, Natural Resources, and Environment and State Planning and Community Affairs Committees. She's definitely whip of the House Senate Minority Caucus and the chair of the South Fulton House delegation. She also serves as the Entertainment Committee of the state legislature. Let me see. Representative Bazemore is the mother of one son, two daughters. She's a state committee member of the Democratic Party and a member of the NAACP and a member of New Birth Missionary Baptist Church. And Debra, I believe your son is a veteran also.
He is. He is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
She too young to have a son that's a veteran.
Don't tell.
So I know there was a lot of action down at the state capitol with COVID-19 and all included. So give us some feedback, please.
Definitely was a lot of action. As you know, we had to break and interrupt the legislative process early on in March. So we had 11 days left at that point. The day that we had crossover, we found out the next day that some of our colleagues did in fact contract COVID-19. And so we were quarantined, the legislators were quarantined before anybody else was in the state because of that. Thank God that everybody that I know of that contracted it has recovered and is better. So then we had to come back on the 15th of the month to make sure that to make sure that we passed a budget, because the budget has to get passed prior to July 1st. And that's by law. So we were called back in to do that. And it felt as though we had been down there 40 days in just that short period of time, because there was a lot to take in and get done. However, we were able to get through it. We were social distancing, so we were spread out all over the place. And it took a while to get through, but we did address some of the issues that we had left on the table. One of the biggest issues was the hate crime bill. So the hate crime bill, which is HB 426, was introduced last year, and it sat in the Senate Judiciary Committee for over 400 days because the chair did not want to do anything with that bill. However, when we saw all the murders taking place, that made it even more urgent to get that bill passed. So we had the Speaker of the House said he wanted it done. The Lieutenant Governor actually, he wanted to make some changes to it, which would have slowed down the process, which did slow down the process for a little while. And he wanted to put some language, different language in the bill. But after negotiations with the Democratic caucus and the Republican caucus, it was clear that the language that they wanted to put in would not get that bill across the line. So they took that language out. However, it did not die. They put it in a whole new bill, which was House Bill 838. And I don't know how many of you are familiar with 838, but that bill, what it does is, if you are a protester, and I'm giving this as an example, and you get in a police officer's face, like most protesters do because they're upset and they're frustrated and they want justice, if you get in their face and they have the perception that you are attacking them verbally, or if they feel threatened, they can then charge you. You are charged. Not only can they charge you, they can now sue you personally. So that is the language that they wanted to put in the hate crime bill, Lieutenant Governor, and some Republicans. So because, and this is so important, we need people to go to the polls because we don't have the numbers to defeat. We didn't have the numbers, but I am counting on our constituents to go to the polls, and we will have the numbers next year to defeat the bill. That bill was passed. So
it's so just, it's so just.
That's a law.
Yes. From what I understand, the governor has not signed it yet. And I'm sure you all know there are three things that the governor can do. The governor can veto a bill that comes to his desk. He can sign or do nothing. If he does nothing after 40 days, that bill goes into law.
But what we need to do, and we need to ask the public to do, is to stay alert and know what's going on with these bills, because a lot of them sneak by if we don't.
That's right. And go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I was just listening with some real close ears here in regards to, the political process. I have found that in a lot of cases, just like you said, most people don't know or understand or even have the opportunity to read the bill. And individuals who are very astute in the political process will try and slip language in there like they attempted to do. But if you and others don't have enough strength to say, hold up, this is wrong, you can't do that. That's why we elect people like you to do your job, to protect us. Because we're not down there in that Golden Dome for 40 days, you are.
Right.
And we really have to put a lot of trust into you and the Calvin Smireys and everybody else. I've known Calvin for almost 40 years to do the right kind of things.
Well,
and
I'm glad. Go ahead.
I'm very, very surprised that the lieutenant governor in cahoots with the governor would try and make that change at the nth hour for a hate crime bill that should have been signed 4 years ago.
That's right. That's right. And so I'm glad you elaborated on that, but I just want your audience to understand that when you are in the minority party, you don't have the numbers to defeat a bill. So they had the majority party only has to get 92 votes to pass anything. And they got the 92 votes, barely. So we were on our job and we voted against. And people can actually go on the website and see how their state reps and state senators have voted on different things. And we did, we voted against it. And we tried to kill it, but we didn't have enough numbers. And once in a while, you will find people from the other party that will vote sensibly for the people. But it's very rare. And that's how those type bills get slipped through.
Well, we're gonna let you keep going, but that brings a point that we talked about in the beginning of this session, of this program, is that we have the election coming up in November, and to be as straightforward as I can, we need to flip it. We need to reduce how many Republicans are in there and increase how many Democrats are in there.
That's right. And I'm glad you said that, because that is the strategy of our caucus. That's what we're looking at. We are uniting together and becoming one voice so that individuals will know exactly what we stand for and that they have to vote down the ballot from the top to the bottom and make sure they are electing the correct people. Because when these things come about, I might be your state rep and I have a voice and I stand up and speak against it. But when that vote goes down, we need to have those individuals that can fight because we have the numbers that can defeat whatever bills that are going in that's going to affect our community.
Let me ask you a quick question. For those of us that advocate for voting and encouraging people to vote, what input would you have on basically changing the culture of the people that vote? And the big word that you use is vote down the ballot. Is don't just vote for president and don't vote the rest of the ballot. Don't just vote for governor and don't vote the rest of the local and state position. So how can we push the voting people to vote the complete ballot?
So the Democratic Party of Georgia is, they put out literature, videos, and they're pushing the information. And then we as legislators, we push the information out on our social media sites. And we are we're trying to unify so that everybody hears the same message and understands that that is what's needed to make sure that we represent all Georgians accurately and correctly and give everybody what they need to sustain themselves and to be productive Georgians. The bills that we're seeing, it does not do that. It caters to one side and not the other. So we are determined to get that message out. The Black Caucus, the Democratic Caucus, we are all unifying together. And the other part of that is we need people, and I know some people are leery about the absentee ballots, but we found that absentee ballots is the sure and more protective way to vote. And so we're making sure this time that we don't have the same fiasco that we just encountered with the absentee ballots. So we know the Secretary of State's office is not going to this time send out applications to everybody in Georgia. So people have to request those ballots this time. And I would say start now to request the ballots because I believe, and my computer started acting up, but I believe it's July 20th for the runoff is when the early voting starts. So it's kind of late to ask for absentee ballot, but for November, start as soon as possible, asking for absentee application, fill it out, send it back, and get your ballot and fill it out and send it back. Because what we found, we have more people voting that way because it's more convenient. And especially since COVID, most people were home. And so I don't know if you heard the comments from the president and the governor and the Speaker of the House. They said that if we continue to do that, the Republicans will not be in office any longer.
Correct. Totally correct on that. You know, we can go back 4 years ago when, not 4 years, a couple of years ago when the current governor for Georgia, who was sitting as the Secretary of State running for governor,
Yeah.
which was the biggest okie doke that I could have ever heard of. And more than 700 voting machines were not placed out. And people didn't have the opportunity to vote. Then you come around to 2020 for a major election and voting polls weren't open on time. The machines weren't working properly. Staff didn't show up because of COVID concerns. There were so many different obstacles there.
Mhm.
Anything that they can put into play to stop the constituents from voting. So it's very, very important for State Representative Debra Bazemore and others to do the right thing for the population, the right thing for the constituents that voted for you, to be our eyes, ears, and feet on the ground to get things done correctly. Because it's the worst thing that can happen is to have individuals slide things in, do things incorrectly, and before you know it, it's signed by the governor and you can't do anything.
That's right. And let me go back to revisit that bill, House Bill 838, because from what I understand, it's not signed by the governor yet. So we still do have time for individuals to make sure they contact the governor's office and request that he not sign that bill. And we're not the only ones that have a problem with it. Even some of the other organizations have a problem with it, because what they also did in their haste, they put in there that if you kill an officer, you get 1 to 5 years, I believe it is. But in Georgia, already on the books, if you kill an officer or anybody, you're going to get the maximum. So this really decreases the time that you would serve. So there are many entities that have a problem with that bill. So please call, write, email, do whatever you need to do to contact the governor's office and encourage him not to sign that bill. In addition to what you were talking about, when people were sitting in line, standing in line for 6 hours, and the machines were not, we found out that machines were not delivered to polling locations. The wrong machines were sent. These are new machines. And so even though the Secretary of State tried to say that this was not his fault and it wasn't his responsibility, we differ with him. Because when Kathy Cox, who was a Democrat, when she was Secretary of State and decided to get new machines, what she did was she had about 100 of her staffers make sure that they were there on site to help with any technical problems, help with any instructions that were needed. She sent out prior to instructions in the mail for voters. He did not do any of that. And he just assumed he'd buy the new equipment. He was happy about that. He took thousands of dollars to boast about that on ads, but he did not put that money to use to buy or to pay individuals to work that day and prior to the election to make sure it ran smoothly. He thought it would just work smoothly on its own and tried to blame the counties, which was wrong.
That's your question. Hate crime bill, House Bill 426, and then 838. And you've been in the Golden Dome now for a minute. How did your constituents on the other side of the aisle, do you think that they're very, very sincere in regards to this hate crime bill, or are they just caught up into the wave of what's going on around the world, especially now with let's pull down these monuments, which is okay, but that's not changing the mindset of individuals who've been dealing with this craziness for the last 150 years. I mean, there's so much hate crime in this world and in the states and in Georgia in particular.
Yes.
How do you feel when you look your constituent that doesn't look like you, and you mean your counterpart that doesn't look like you in the eye, male or female? Are they sincere or just they're full of crap?
We really do have some spirited debates and conversations, and that's putting it mildly. I believe, just as you said, because of the atmosphere and the climate that we're in right now, I believe it was forced upon them. Because if they had not done anything, then it would be to their detriment, especially come November, because it's too apparent now that there was a need. We were 4 out of all the states in the United States that did not have a hate
Didn't
crime
have a hate crime bill. Yeah.
Right. So there was no reason for it. And like I said, the gentleman that was the chair in the Senate, he sat on that bill for over 400 days for no reason. So, but then when the climate and the atmosphere became such as what it is now, there was no way. And then when you had the Speaker of the House and the governor saying he would sign, they didn't have a choice at that point because they're in the same party.
Yeah, it's amazing to me. I'm sure Herman probably thinks the same thing, that, this racism thing, it's just rampant. And unfortunately, because of the climate coming out of the White House, it has given that far right, it's given that base, the feeling as though that they can do anything they want to. People are being brutalized and things are being stated, and there's no feeling of concern. They can do what the hell they want to do.
Exactly. And it is hard on us because we do feel for our constituents. We are part of those individuals. When we come back to our community, we know what's going to happen. And those are our sisters and our brothers and our nieces and nephews and our sons and daughters. And I'm going to tell you, I'll share with you all something my son said to me. Like, he is honorably discharged from the service, Air Force, because of injury. But what he said to me about this COVID, I asked him, was he wearing a mask? And he said to me, I will not be wearing a mask. My son is 6'4". He is over 250 pounds. If he has to go into a bank with a mask on, without the mask, he's already perceived to be dangerous, okay, intimidating. So once he puts that mask on, anything could happen. And he lives in Florida.
Tough place.
So that broke my heart. Said that because he cannot even protect himself in public from this COVID-19 because in fear of what somebody would perceive him to be and maybe shoot him and kill him.
Yep.
And
I agree with you.
That's the America we're living in.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you, I want to maybe ask you a question that we don't have an answer to. But I also, we just want to reemphasize that if you want to vote in early election, you only got a few days. I believe it's July the 20th to request a ballot. So you can still do that. My concerns are dealing with the movement, Black Lives Matter, in structured racism that's 400 years old. And when I was growing up as a kid, when Anthony was growing up as a kid, I mean, we all been mistreated, driving while black. You name it, we've been through it, and our kids, in this situation, I believe it's worse for them than it was for us because we adapted to it and figured out how to stay alive. But people are pushing back now, and we're at war.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I don't think this is going to stop anytime soon. So we've seen prior when we've had killings of our men and women, and we've seen protests, and they've been out there for a little while, made the statement, and then it subsided. It went away until the next thing. But this movement now is organized, and you're talking about young people, and we're dealing with the pandemic. So people have time right now. A lot of people are not at work, they're not at school. So they have time to voice their frustration and concern and demand a change. And I think over, throughout the country and other countries, you can see there have been protests in other countries for us regarding the injustice. So I believe that as we continue to voice these concerns, it's going to become apparent that there has to be a change. And I believe the first change is going to be in November when we issue an eviction notice.
Well, that would be a happy.
We like that.
That would be a happy day. I mean, woo. That would be a happy day. And I hope, the successor, being Joe Biden, representing the Democratic Party, realizes that he's going to come in with a ship that's already, catching water.
Right.
So he's going to have to come in with an agenda of trying to heal this country, getting this country back into being a unified body. I mean, we're no longer considered the world power.
Right. That's
we're
right.
No longer considered the world power. We are vulnerable. We're a vulnerable power now. Well, we've had killings and bombings on our land. We've had suicide bombs, and we've had mosque attacks. We've had racial violence. We've had, we're even going backwards in the housing industry, different interest rates. I was so appalled where a white neighbor, even though you have social media, and they are still coming out, go back home. Yeah. Leave here and go back to America. Well, excuse me, where are you from? Ireland, England, Denmark, or what? What are you talking about? Going back home. You are a foreigner yourself. But that feeling of you're white and you're right.
That's right.
They don't have a clue. Oh, you need to get over 400 years. Please. Where you getting that from? Well, we still have young men being killed every day.
Yes.
Being stopped just because you're Black and you look suspicious.
Yes.
Or a white woman feels threatened, like in Central Park. A flagrant lie. Even though she was on social media, she thought she can get away.
Right.
And that's arrogance.
Right. And I agree with you. I think that because some individuals have been privileged for so long, the impression is that it does not matter that you're recording me. Nothing's going to happen. This is just the way it has been always. And I don't understand why you have a problem. What is your problem? Like you said, I was watching What Would You Do? And one of the ladies said, just get over it. How do you get over it? It's generational. It's not something that you can. So I'm from New York, and don't think that I did not experience. I experienced, my ex-husband and I tried to buy a house, and it happened to be on an all-white street. And we would have bought the house next to our insurance man, the man we give our money to each month for our insurance. When he realized that we were trying to purchase the house and we had already put down earnest money, he went behind us and undid that whole thing. Our lawyer was in on it. They sent us back our money and would not allow us to live on that street. So it's everywhere.
It's everywhere. And that's why, to me, we need the strong people like yourself who could theoretically deal with the overt racism, the in-your-face racism, the sneakiness of trying to get a bill with change with language is not appropriate for the masses. We need you to step up. You stay to step up. You know what I mean?
Yes. And to that point again, at the end, when we are on at Sine Die or a couple of days before, what happens is they would take bills. So say I introduced a bill for about a vehicle, something insurance, okay? And it crossed over and went to the Senate. Well, if they want to get something passed at the last minute, what they'll do is take my bill and they'll gut the whole bill and they'll put their language in it and everything. So it looks as though it's my bill because it has my number and everything, but it's totally different. And so this is why during the last days, the week before Sonny died, the legislators are so inundated because we have to be, like you say, on top of these bills and make sure we read them when they come back or have somebody read them. We have to have that. We have to have a team of people because we can't read every single bill.
Correct.
But change these bills and then you think you're voting on one thing and then you read it and you find out it's a totally different thing.
That's just amazing to me.
Yeah.
Here we are in 2020, and we're still dealing with things that go back in the 50s.
Yeah.
It's just amazing to me that it happened. And it's not only here in Georgia, it's across the country.
Right.
It's
just different. Yeah, it's just different players. The game is still the same.
Game is still the same.
Yeah, exactly. And I did want to hit, did you want to say something, Herman? I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. We're running out of time, so go ahead.
Well, I did want to shift to this, and next time we'll talk about, I just want to let you know that there have been many bills regarding veterans that have been introduced. And I'm gonna tell you, I don't remember not one bill not getting passed. So we are working hard for veterans and their families. But what I did want to talk about is the CARES Act that was passed to generate monies and to filter monies down here to the Department of Labor. We understand and we are heartbroken right now. I just got off the phone earlier with some of my colleagues. We are going to call the Department of Labor director out. He's saying how many people, how many cases that they have already processed. And we are getting calls like crazy from people that are living in their cars. They are living in storage areas. They are living with their kids. They have not received their unemployment. So that money was for partial unemployment victims and unemployment, people that were totally unemployed. These people have filed back in March, have not seen a dime. There is one excuse after another. We're not the only ones that are not able to get a response. So our constituents can't get a response from them. They just let the phone ring off the hook. We as legislators are not able to get through. Then we called our congressmen and women, only to find out they're not being responded to either. So we are moving forward. We have, under the Democratic caucus, we have formed a team of people, which I am one of the members. It is the COVID-19 response team. And I don't know if you all have been watching on our House Caucus Facebook page, but every week we bring forth an update. You can go there and see all the videos. And we are calling him out. We are calling him. We have a meeting with him on Tuesday at 1 o'clock. And we're telling him time out for all the excuses. Our constituents are suffering. And when July 15th comes, which is the end of the executive order to protect them, you're going to have people being evicted. You're going to have people losing their houses, their cars, not being able to feed their kids. Then what are we going to do? But you have the money. The money was filtered down from the government. So I don't care if you need to hire 100 people today. You need to hire those people and get these people their money that they are due.
Is this the Department of Labor, the commission of the department?
That's right, Department of Labor.
And you know why? Because they're not affected. They don't have a clue. They don't have a clue the masses are going through like with the descriptions, they don't have a clue.
That's right. But we as legislators, we are sending a letter, and we're not just gonna wait for the letter to get there because we know that's gonna take time. We're sending a letter, we're joining with, we have a South Metro Coalition, we're joining with them, we're joining with the Senate, the House, and in Congress. We are joining together and we're telling him, you need to get these people their money and get it to them now.
Well, we'll have you back as soon as possible.
Okay.
We will. We just ran out of time, and I know
Okay.
Anthony get excited. So
Yeah.
we want to definitely thank you for participating, and I want to thank you for being part of my veteran organization, helping veterans.
Definitely.
And you made a good point. So we got to ask for more, and that's what I keep telling my veterans. So
Yes.
we'll do that.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. It was a good discussion. I look forward to coming back.
Very good.
Well, thank you, everybody. This is Veterans Today, and we have completed our session today. We'll be back soon. I'm Herman Anderson, and I will get Representative Debra Bazemore. Co-host is Anthony Aiken.
Yes. Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate you.
Okay. Thank you.
Take care, Herman.
All righty.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye-bye.